How you doing, folks? Welcome to my ASL Starter Kit #1 playthrough of Scenario S2, War of the Rats. And that's the second scenario from the Starter Kit. And like I said before, it's really good fun. I'm having a blast. It's 1942, Stalingrad. The Russians are holding on to a series of buildings which the Germans are trying to capture in their entirety. Of course, I am using a special rule. If the Germans manage to capture at least 2, they'll get a minor victory. If they capture all 3, they'll gain a total all-out victory. Anything less than that, and the Russians win. So it's a little modification to the scenario objectives where the Germans have to capture all 3 to win it all. We'll see how well this works out. And up to this point, the Germans have been running roughshod over the Russians. Russians are really desperate to get their reinforcements on board. Let's see if they do. Let's jump into the scenario and see how far along we get. All right, just finished turn 3. Russians finished their turn. So the next turn will be 4, and that'll be with the Germans. We're doing pretty good so far. Anyway, started the Russians off. Rally phase, nothing in the battle so far has rallied, including these 2 units down here. Not able to rally. These units up here were unable to rally. These Germans were unable to rally, which is unfortunate. They are a line unit of 7. Plus they got a bonus for being in a stone building. They still could not rally. Yeah, so that's unfortunate for both sides. This unit, this leader, was originally up in this building. He withdrew out of the objective building from here into here. So he's now stacked with them. So a little bit of hope to kind of keep them alive and maybe get these guys rallied in the next turn. They're now with a leader this time. He did take some defensive fire. Survived. Over here, the Russians did some prep fire with these conscript units with LMGs, including this one against him. Totally ineffective, which is unfortunate, even though he's point blank. A total firepower of 6, doubled for point blank, and so on. He just wasn't able to do any have any success against this elite unit at all. And the same for him. I think he fired up here, and that was it. Now down here, we have a first line unit that was originally here. He moved into this position, took some defensive fire, I believe from this position as well as here. He survived, and the leader, who was here, also joined. He was subjected to some residual defensive fire, but he survived as well. During the advance phase, they moved in, and a combat ensued. The Russians managed to somehow ambush the Germans. Even still, they were unsuccessful at wiping out this German unit or doing any damage whatsoever. Really unfortunate here for the Russians. Just a run of bad luck this turn, and boy, they don't need any bad luck. This unit was originally pinned and CX'd, so it had half firepower and everything, and still could not be finished off by the Russians, who had a firepower of 4 plus 1 for the leader, plus ambush and so on and so forth. Wasn't able to finish him. Germans weren't able to be effective in the counterattack, and that was it. This was marked as a melee, so it's a continuing fight. Yeah, alright, so I guess that's it. Yeah, that's it. Next turn is turn 4. The Germans are up next, so there's no chance of the Russians getting any reinforcements during the Germans' turn 4. Looking at the situation, the Germans are in a pretty good position. There's a little fighting going on here, holding out. I think, to be honest with you, the Russians at this point, if they need to really just hold out for reinforcements, they're not going to be able to do anything over here. And obviously up here, that DM marker will be taken off in the next rally phase. And there's a couple units there, one of which is a half squad because of a casualty reduction, so it's not going to be effective. It's going to be very difficult to rally them or make them effective in the battle. So the focus is going to be down here, and if those reinforcements come, that's the whole hope of the Russians right now. You know, that'll decide what's next. I think if the Russians can manage to hold 2 buildings, that would be a success. That'll give them the win. But so far, they only have the 1 building. Last-ditch effort, I'll probably withdraw maybe a unit or 2 into this building and just hunker down. But right now, I'm okay with leaving them up here, slowing the advance, keeping them as far away from this building as possible. So I have no problems leaving them here and just waiting for the reinforcements. And if they do come, we'll see where they come on. They might come on up here. They might come on over here and try and capture one of these buildings. This position, by the way, Germans control this building, but it's not defended very well. They got one line unit right here, first line unit here occupying it. They got a second one on its way, and I just noticed this last night. I didn't put the leader over in this direction. For some reason, I had him split off over here with the other unit and the LMG. Probably because I'm thinking, all right, put him with the LMG because he'll get a bonus if he directs the fire, which makes sense. But I guess my intention is to put him into support into this building, which may or may not be useful. These guys have no leadership, so if they break, there's no one to rally them directly. So I was thinking maybe that was a mistake. Put the leader over here. I could still fix it, but it's just something I was thinking. Something to keep our eye on. And like I said, it comes down to where the Russians come on to the battlefield. They could come from this direction and launch a counterattack. And those units, the reinforcement units, are basically, they're first-line units, but they're 5.27s. They have a firepower of 5 with a range of 2, kind of like submachine gun units, I imagine. They also have an LMG, so they got considerable firepower at close range. So getting them into combat is going to be a prerogative for the Russians when they do come on. They're good for the assault, so it might be useful to bring them on over here. They can come on anywhere, actually, along the south edge. So we'll see if they do come on, and then we'll go from there. But until then, you're going to see the Russians probably consolidating and holding on to this little foothold they have. All right, folks, let's get into turn 4 for the Germans. All right, folks, here we are. We're halfway through turn 4 for the Germans. Let's see what's going on. First of all, I'd like to make a little correction here. If you remember, previously, there was a squad of Russians here and here, and I forgot to actually move them during their advance phase 1 hex. And what happened is this unit went here and this unit went here. So this is their correct positions at the start of the German turn. So yeah, that's what that's about. Also, this is a conscript unit, and this is I think that's a line unit. Let me double check that. No, that's 2 conscript units that were located here. Anyway, rally phase for the Germans. This stack was up here. There was a German line unit that was broken. It did manage to rally. Huzzah! And it moved during its movement phase up into this hex, took some defensive fire, which is very ineffective. This unit here only has, it's a 4.26, so its range isn't very good. But it does have an LMG, and it put down some defensive fire during movement up here. It was ineffective. I should also mention the Germans did make use of prep fire with this squad and put it on this unit here, this conscript unit, and it was effective. It managed to break and DM this unit. Its morale, its leadership is now 5. So that's not good for the Russians. Everything is slowly falling apart. For the Russians, the Germans are looking better and better. And of course, this unit advanced with an advanced move into this stone building, getting ever closer to that objective. He has a DC. This is an elite unit as well. So they're looking good. I'm certainly not going to use the DC at the moment. Down here, we have a continuing melee for this stone building, which is outside of the objective building. So we're going to resolve that this turn. And by the way, we're at the advance fire phase for the German turn. So I did all the movement and defensive fire. I should point that out as well. During movement, this elite unit of Germans did make a sneaky move to get into the objective building. He's currently located there. I don't believe there was any defensive fire put on him. And what else? We had the medium machine gun, which crossed the street. Wasn't sure what I was going to do with him. He's got a nice avenue of fire here. But I don't know. I just decided, you know, let's move while it's all clear. So I put him in that building. And we'll see what happens with him. Also, during the rally phase, this Russian unit managed to rally this conscript unit. So that was good. This one's still broken, but he did rally him. And as a result, during the defensive fire, he did fire on this unit and managed to break this unit, which was quite remarkable considering he's a 4.26. His range is only 2, so he's firing at long range. He managed to actually break this unit in a stone building. So this unit is now broken, and yeah, So that's the situation there. And one thing, this is a mistake. I don't know why he's sitting there. This leader is actually there. And I'll show you what I did with that. I know I was previously talking about my concern about putting the leader, this guy, over in this direction and supporting in this building. Well, while I had cover and no opposition to shoot at me, I decided to change my plan and move him up this way. So he has now joined this squad with an LMG to support this unit. So that's where he's located. So it's a good thing because this unit just broke. So that'll build up this defense of this building in case the Russians come at us from here. Also, I did move a squad. He double timed to get in the building. I think he was up here originally. Somewhere, I'm not sure where he was, but he double timed and he got in the building. So the Germans are now firmly in control of this building, as well as this building, and of course this building. Germans are doing outstanding, to be honest with you. Of course, these two units up here, they are still broken. And this is the look of the battle so far as I go into the German advance fire phase. And it gives them a chance to do some shooting, and then they're going to advance and close combats and route, and all that's going to be taken care of. So there's where we're at so far, folks. Going to finish up turn 4 for the Germans. We'll be right back. I'll show you guys what happened. Turn 4 for the Germans is complete. Again, not much happened, really. One thing that stands out is this melee is still, well, it's not resolved yet. They're still fighting it out here. Drawn, as you can imagine, for this stone building. We do have some additional DM markers placed on units for receiving fire. This stack right here, I think we're at, let me see. We got one squad of conscripts with an LMG, still in good shape. That's about all that the Russians have. They have like 2 units to fight with currently. The rest are all DM'd and broken. And that includes 2 units, one of which has an LMG. I believe they're all conscripts. So it's going to be challenging getting these units back in action again. So that's unfortunate. So that's what's in this stack. And the Germans advanced into this building after this unit routed into here. Not this unit, but the unit underneath. This unit did not advance. It held its position. This melee was fought, not resolved. There really was no advancing going on here. This was pretty much it. Also, this unit is still here fresh with the commander, conscripts, but this unit received a DM. There was fire put on this area by the medium machine gun. I forgot to place that DM, so there is that. And up here, this German unit that was here routed into this hex, so he's now with the commander. He's got a DM, so try and rally him in the next turn, which is the Russian turn 4. All right, folks, that's just about it. The only thing left to do is, you guessed it, let's pull out our dice tray and see if we can get some reinforcements for the Russians. Now, this is turn 4 for the Russians, so they need to roll a 1 through 3, less than a 4. And again, we're going to count the red die here. So 3 or less. And they got a 2, folks. There it is. The Russian reinforcements come on in Russian turn 4. So we're going to see them placed along the southern edge of the map, which is down here. And I'll think about that, where I want them to come on. And we'll see what effect it plays on the battle. But so far, the Germans are in control of all 3 buildings. So it's going to be a decisive German victory so far. And again, it's a 6-turn game. So hang in there, folks. All right, I just finished Germans' defensive fire phase. We're still in the 4th turn of the Russian turn. About to go into the Russians' advance fire phase, followed by the rout phase, and so on. So he's got to fight this combat yet. Close combat comes around. So this is still contested. Nobody's actually shooting into the combat. Here's the situation. You can see that the reinforcements for the Russians have arrived. And I thought about this and said, you know, let's not overthink this. Just throw them where it would be the most exciting at the moment. And I chose here. And it was really quite simple. Instead of coming on as a full stack, I came on in 2 stacks. And the first one entered from this hex right here, M10. And it survived some defensive fire. The only one firing at me, in fact, was this unit over here, which was long range for him. His range is only 4, but he's got a firepower of 5. He still put down some fire here. They survived it, and it left, I think, a residual of 2 in that hex. And a second unit, a second squad, also followed up this unit and got this far as well. So there's 2 reinforcing squads, 527s, that are currently on the board and in this hex. You'll also note that this hex, previously, this leader was in it along with his squad, another conscript unit. They did advance to this position. Yeah, so he's followed up by 2 more squads. So there's a total of 3 squads in this building. And it looks like we're ready to assault into here. There was also the leader, the Russian 9-2. He came in with a squad which has an LMG, and they came out here in the woods. And their next move, I believe, was here in the open, and somebody shot at him. I believe it was this stack right here, who has not fired yet. He did not fire at this hex. And he saved his firepower for wherever he might go or whatever. But he did fire at this point. He put down 2 residual. They survived and ended their move in there. And yeah, that was that situation. Actually, these residuals are removed at this point. And that was it as far as this sector. So the Russians advanced unhindered. They did take some fire, I believe, here. This was adjacent to him. His first fire was down here, and his final fire was on this hex right here, which was adjacent, and that was all he could do. So it was doubled and halved and so on, his firepower. Didn't do anything. Perhaps that was a bad choice. I don't know. He was the only one that could actually shoot at this stack that was moving in the open. And I didn't fire on him when he was in the woods. So he had all kinds of penalties for not using advanced movement and being in the open and so on. So I took the chance. But it didn't work out for the Germans. It was good fun, though. A little excitement there. It looks like the Russians are going for these 2 objective buildings. Over here, the Russians basically do not control this either. I thought about moving the squad into here. It probably would have been a better idea, but I decided to keep him there. He did prep fire. This is removed. There was a full squad in here that was not broken at the time. And he put down some prep fire on this square here, or this hex here. It got doubled because it was point blank, and so on. But it was ineffective. It didn't do anything to this stack. And during the defensive fire phase, which I just completed, there was no moving units over here. But during the full defensive fire phase, this unit, this stack of units, and these guys did defensive fire. And in his case, he doubled his firepower for being point blank. He did not use his DC, which he has. He's still an elite unit. I'm holding on to that baby for some reason. But yeah, he doubled his firepower. So he fired into this hex. And this hex had 3 squads in it, 2 of which were broken. And then there was this squad here, which was still full strength. It was pretty solid at the moment. He prepped fired on this square, or hex, and it was ineffective. But he defensive fired. And also these guys, separately, also fired on this hex. So there was 3 locations where the Germans were firing on this one hex. And yes, line of sight did pass through this building area. So that was that. And the net result here is that this previously unbroken full squad was broken. And in fact, he's now a half squad. He took a casualty reduction. So there he is with 4 leadership. Still has the LMG. And the other 2 units, which were unbroken, have been destroyed. One of which was a half squad to begin with. It was already broken. It was eliminated. And the other squad, which I believe was full strength, it took a casualty reduction and twice, and it was removed. I believe that's how it worked. But the net result is that 2 squads were eliminated here. This one took a casualty reduction. It's now a half squad, and it is broken. So there's a LMG laying there at this point. And DM'd, of course. We're going to the rout phase. These guys will rout out of that building. Or be eliminated for not doing so. Chances are they'll fall back into here, and that'll be that. And that was defensive fire. It was pretty productive, I think, for the Germans, at least over here. Russians, not so much. The battle's really, I almost feel like it's a lost cause for the Russians, and it was like that early on in the fighting. I think around late in turn 2 or turn 3, things started going very bad for the Russians. They could not get those reinforcements on. It just was not happening. And I took a chance with the Germans, running deep with a couple squads to get as far forward as possible, and it helped. So far, anyway. So we've got this close combat to fight and the advanced fire phase to do, and I'm going to show you the results of the rest of that stuff at the end of this turn here, folks. So that's the situation. Let's go into the next phase. All right, finished turn 4. 4 is complete. This is the top of turn 5, and it's going to be for the Germans. Now, if I could see what happened here for the Russians in their turn 4, the end of it anyway, you could see that this combat was eventually resolved. The Germans came out on top. They defeated the Russian squad and its leader. They now control this building, which isn't an objective, but it might have positioning advantage. We'll see. The Germans are pretty much in control of this objective building. The only thing standing in their way is this broken half squad, which isn't going to do much. Their leadership is currently 4. There's no leader around. There's an abandoned LMG, and of course the Germans are in this position with another elite unit, DC, and that's 2 DCs. And this is another reason why I decided not to put any Russian reserve or reinforcements over in this direction, because here's where the enemy DCs are, the demolition charges. That would be a tough nut to face. In addition, it kind of leaves these units out of the battle. They're basically doing mop-up operations against these broken units and so on and so forth, the Russians. And that's good, because the Russians could focus over here without these guys being a burden, at least at the moment. That's my thinking anyway. Yeah, and of course the Germans are also firmly in control of up here. They got some nice fire avenues, so I don't know what's going to happen. The Russians are all but routed from this region. So this objective looked like it's going to stay in the hands of the Germans for some time. This objective building here is now contested. We got a leader who advanced into this objective building with a squad. So they now have a foothold in here. As well, these 2 squads, reinforcing squads, did follow up here with an advance move to that location. So this will be interesting. This unit remains broken. And over here, the 9-2 Russian commander, I don't know if he should have been over here. He probably would have been better served over here, but then I'd have 2 officers, 2 leaders over here. I don't know, but this is fun anyway. So he is up here with a squad with an LMG. He advanced into this building from this location, obviously on his way into this objective building. We'll see what happens. The Russians have got a lot of firepower that they could put on this square, or this hex, I should say. I don't know why I keep saying square. I play too many games, folks. But it's an interesting situation to me. I like it, and I'm anxious to see what happens from this. Can the Russians take at least one of these buildings? Can they take them both? There really isn't much concern here. That's pretty much a given that the Germans will take this. Now, if we remember the requirements for victory, if the Germans fail to take all 3 buildings, they automatically lose the battle. Now, of course, I'm using my own little minor adjustment rule here, and that is if the Germans can capture at least 2 buildings, they'll have a minor victory. And that's what I'm using here. So they can afford to give up a single building and still get a victory. Or the Germans, I should say. But I am trying to capture all 3 for the Germans to get a total all-out victory. But for the Russians, if they can manage to take at least one of these objective buildings, basically it'll be a minor loss for them. But if they do manage to take 2, they will secure victory for their side, both with my special rule and the rules for the scenario, the actual rules. So that's the situation. So I'm going to try and take at least these 2 buildings, and we'll see what happens. The Germans are up next. Let's see if they can hold on to this objective. This CX marker will be removed shortly, and he'll no longer be penalized for being tired. So we'll see what happens here. This will be interesting, and so will this. Just as a reminder, this stack here is 2 squads. I believe they're first-line German units, but they do have an LMG. And coming into the building is this one Russian squad, a 527 first-line unit, with an LMG as well, and a 9-2 commander. So it's kind of even. Maybe it goes in the favor of the Germans slightly. We'll see. So there's going to be some fighting here. And there's going to be some fighting here. And let's see what happens. Okay, oh yeah, there's also this MMG as well. First line German unit is in possession of it. They can fire all through this area right here. Penalized because of the orchards, of course. But they can see through it. So that's the situation, folks. Let's see what the Germans do.